Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of IHR TV. Today I'm interviewing Monica Krusman, who is the co-director of Reset, an organization preparing ordinary people to resettle refugees in their local areas. In the UK, the first Muslim-led group has recently welcomed a family in Birmingham. Let's hear more about it and more about community sponsorship as a unique resettlement route. Monica, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
For people who don't know much about it, what is community sponsorship, and could you please explain the role of Reset in the resettlement of refugees?
So Reset is the national charity in the UK which is working to build and develop community sponsorship. And community sponsorship is a scheme whereby ordinary people in communities across the country can come together to welcome a refugee family to their neighbourhoods. And that means undertaking a variety of activities. So sponsorship groups do fundraising. They help find houses for the refugee family. And then when the family arrives, they help the family get registered at the GP. They help with school enrolment, and they help even moving towards employment. And overall, I would emphasize that community sponsorship is really an empowerment approach. So it's about people helping other people to be empowered to live life to the full wherever they are. And the role for Reset in all of this is to provide the training and the guidance to community sponsorship groups at every step along the way. So we work with groups when they are just forming, when they've only just become aware of sponsorship and decided they'd like to go on that journey. And we take groups right through the application and approval process and into the period where the family has arrived, and we help them through the resettlement period as well.
The first Muslim-led group has just welcomed the family in Birmingham. Tell me more about it.
Right, exactly. So we're really excited about the group in Birmingham. This is the first time a completely mosque-led group has welcomed a family in the UK. And we're really thrilled about that because I think it demonstrates that community sponsorship can absolutely be for anybody, no matter what your faith background, all faiths or none, social background, cultural background, age. There is something in community sponsorship for everybody. So we're really excited that the first mosque-led group has welcomed a family, and we know that there are more mosque-led groups in the process. So we really look forward to many more families being welcomed by diverse groups.
How many refugees have been resettled in the UK so far through community sponsorship?
So in the couple of years that sponsorship has been running, we've resettled around 450 individual refugees through sponsorship. We have about 100 families. And I think more important still is to say that we've got well over 100 groups somewhere in the application process. So we've got lots more groups waiting to welcome families. And we'd like to see that number grow and more refugees welcomed through sponsorship, through community sponsorship. I think it's important to say, especially in the current context where we're struggling with the pandemic crisis, is that the refugee crisis hasn't gone away. So there are still well over 60 million people in the world who are officially refugees, who don't have that level of safety, who don't have a home to call their own. And that level of need is still there and will continue to be there after the current crisis. And so I think that need for resettlement, that need for sponsorship will only ever be stronger. And we really look forward to continuing to tackle that together with groups and with communities.
How can people in the UK do the same?
First thing I would recommend would be to visit our website, which is resetuk.org. And we've got loads of different resources and information about the sponsorship experience, the things you need to consider, what it's like. We've got some lovely testimonies from people who've been through the experience, talking about what it was like for them and what it was meaningful. And then if you get through that and think it's still something that sounds quite good, at the moment, we are running a series of virtual drop-in sessions. So you can log in, you can connect online with a member of our team and with indeed members of current community sponsorship groups and talk about the daily reality of sponsorship and what it means and how you might get involved. And then if it's still something that you'd like to go forward with, then I would just encourage you to talk to people, contact your friends, have a chat with your friends, other people that you kind of meet with online virtually these days, and just see if there are other people who are also interested. And then as soon as you've got a couple of people who are even interested, just get in touch with Reset and we will help you start on that really exciting journey.
What is unique about community sponsorship as a resettlement route?
The thing I always like to highlight when I talk about sponsorship is that it's as much about the community as it is about the family. So the families, the refugees, they are really important, and their welfare is what motivates us to undertake all this activity. But it's really about the community and community sponsorship. So there is no other form of resettlement which allows ordinary people across the UK to come together and work in a practical way to give that person-to-person support to refugees. And I think that what that does for people in terms of their personal transformation, and also just their kind of knowledge of their community and the cohesion in their community, is really, really special. I think it's also important to say, on a policy level, that when the new UK resettlement scheme starts sometime this year, every refugee brought to the UK under sponsorship will count as additional to government targets. And that's really important because it means that every refugee coming under sponsorship would not otherwise be coming to the safety in this country. So I think that that's really important and a unique aspect of sponsorship.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, all resettlement has been put on hold for now. What will happen once it is able to restart?
So we're doing a lot of work with groups at the moment to try and help them negotiate through the COVID-19 crisis and work out what's best for their sponsorship activity. To give context, what the kind of main issues that we're dealing with depend a bit on the stage of the process that the groups are currently in. So people who are in the application stage are typically having concerns about how long it's going to take before they can welcome a family and get approved. I should say that the Home Office are continuing to approve applications, so they are still working through applications. So we have groups who are preparing their applications, submitting them and getting them approved, even while arrivals are actually paused. So do remember that you can still do your application even though we're pausing arrivals. For people who've just welcomed families, there are definitely challenges around how to support a family when you can't visit them, and there are challenges for groups as well, where group members can't visit each other because, as I said, one of the things which is so special about sponsorship is the community aspect and the way groups work together. And so we're certainly working with people at the moment to find other ways to connect and to maintain that kind of group activity. So I've got no doubt at all that resettlement will restart as soon as it's safe and possible to do so. And that's because, as I mentioned before, the need for resettlement is just as great now as it was before the crisis 6 months, 12 months ago. And I've got no doubt at all that as soon as it's safe and possible to do so, we will be able to restart resettlement in the UK because it's such a major part of our humanitarian and global response.
What are your hopes for 2020?
So looking forward, I've mentioned that we know we're living in difficult times right at the moment, but I've got absolutely no doubt that resettlement of refugees will start again into the UK as soon as that's safe and practical. And what I really think is exciting about sponsorship is that there are so many different people all across the country who are working together in a very practical way to support refugees. So what I really want to see is sponsorship growing and growing over time. We know from looking at the example of Canada, where sponsorship has been operating for over 40 years, we know that it can be a long-term and sustainable part of resettlement policy. In Canada, over 300,000 people have been welcomed through sponsorship, and I'd really like to see that kind of volume in the UK as well. And I think also looking at other countries like Brazil, Australia, Germany, so many other places where community sponsorship is developing and growing now, I really think I can see a bright future for sponsorship where it's truly a global approach to resettlement. And in terms of just people-to-people contact, and the fact that it's just people helping people to get on with their lives independently, empowered to live their best life possible, I really think that's tremendously exciting.
Monica, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
And thank you for being with us for another episode of IHR TV. From myself, Margherita Cargasacchi, until next time, goodbye.